Dana White has just announced that Dustin Poirier will be taking on Islam Makhachev at UFC 302 during the UFC 300 press conference. And I don't know if anyone else is feeling this way about this fight, but I'm just really not looking forward to it. I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like everyone kind of just has a really good idea what's probably going to happen here. You got people, even Dustin Poirier fans, praying in the comments that he pulls a guillotine, that they put it into existence. This feels like a really undeserved title fight, in my opinion. I was ranting about it a while ago, probably on stream, like maybe 2 weeks ago. And I was thinking, like, this was after Dustin Poirier made his post about how he's training and that he's got his gloves on and he's coming for Makhachev. And I'm like, we have 4 contenders fighting on UFC 300. Why does Islam Makhachev have to fight early June 1st? I did the math. I think it's about 6 or 7 weeks from UFC 300 to UFC 302. Like, what's the point in making that fight? They were trying to make UFC 300 with Islam Makhachev. I think it was against Leon Edwards. We weren't sure what the fights were going to be, but they were going to make one of those fights on UFC 300. Maybe they're going to do Justin Gaethje, because weirdly enough, he was probably going to be the #1 contender if he didn't take on Max Holloway and just get absolutely slept. So it's just very weird, because Islam Makhachev, I think he said he was injured or something. And then all of a sudden, like a couple weeks before 300, after Dustin Poirier fights, he's like, oh, I'm going to be fighting in June. Like, I'll see you soon, Dustin Poirier. And it's like, what? Like, what are we doing here? Dustin Poirier doesn't deserve a title shot, whether you like it or not at this point. Dustin Poirier just beat a number 12 or 13 ranked contender. I think it was 13. Beat a number 13 ranked contender with staph infection on his forehead. Was getting beat pretty much majority of the fight. Benoit Saint-Denis eventually slowed down, but Dustin Poirier also got KO'd, like, I think less than a year ago by the guy that just got flatlined by Max Holloway. So it just doesn't really make too much sense. I think he's even like 2-2 in his last 4, I want to say. Yeah, he's 2-2 in his last 4, 2.5 years ago, or I guess 2.25 years ago. He lost to Charles Oliveira by rear naked choke. He did good early on. After then, beat Michael Chandler by rear naked choke. He was getting beat up in that fight quite a bit as well. Michael Chandler, if he had a little bit of an ounce of fight IQ, he probably would have won that fight, but that's near here or there. He still won the fight. Lost to Justin Gaethje, but got flatlined 8 months ago. And then he beats Benoit Saint-Denis, like I just said, 13 ranked fighter. All of a sudden, when he fights a young up-and-comer, he gets a title shot. I think that's kind of crazy in my opinion. And I think that should be kind of the standard. I feel like, weirdly enough, and this isn't a defense of anybody else, this is more of comparing the outrage of what happens one time and comparing it to others. We have Colby Covington, who comes back, over a year, taking on Masvidal, who was like number 9 or 7, an old Masvidal. Colby did not deserve the title shot. However, there has probably been more outrage from that title shot than there was from this title shot, weirdly enough. And people leading into the UFC 300 card, or at least with the rumors, the heavy rumors of the Islam and Dustin Poirier fight, were saying, well, there's no other contenders. Who's going to take on Islam Makhachev? Like, no shit, there's no other contenders. There's 4 contenders fighting on UFC 300. We have Max Holloway, we have Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, and Arman Tsarukyan. All 4 of them, probably not Max Holloway, but probably 3 of them, Justin Gaethje, Arman Tsarukyan, and Charles Oliveira, are all probably in front of Dustin Poirier in title contention for taking on Islam Makhachev, a rematch for Charles Oliveira. He's taking on these young and up-and-comers, the dangerous ones. You can't really say Beneil Dariush is a young up-and-comer, but Dustin Poirier wasn't going to fight Beneil Dariush. He completely ducked him. Said he was calling him out after. He's like, okay, Beneil, let's fight or whatever. When Ariel Helwani show says, no, that's not a good matchup for me. Didn't want to take that fight at all. Charles Oliveira took on Arman Tsarukyan, who's another young up-and-comer. I guess Dustin Poirier, when he finally fights a guy that can grapple, who does have power in his hands, and he's a young up-and-comer, but he's ranked number 13, I guess that gets you a title shot. I'm not sure why this fight needs to happen in June. Maybe if Islam Makhachev just coming out of this, just finding some kind of bright spot in this situation. Maybe Islam Makhachev is going to fight in October on that Abu Dhabi card, so they're just trying to get that quick turnaround, and he wants to fight twice a year. So maybe that's the case, but it's just really unfortunate. So maybe if he does fight in October, it's all fine and everything's good if he fights Arman Tsarukyan, which is a pretty good fight. And I just think with this fight, it is a pretty solid card under. I think they did announce Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa under it as well. this is a decent card. It's just one of those main events where you're like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. Like, what's the point of the fight? People are praying for guillotines. I guess I'll give a little bit of a prediction here, a little bit of an early prediction. Islam Makhachev is looking really good on the feet. I think I said in a couple of videos before, that Charles Oliveira fight was probably the best chance that anyone has against beating Islam Makhachev anytime soon. Islam looks really good. He looks really strong. If you want to compare, I think skill-wise, he's a lot better than Khabib. However, the chin isn't the same. Khabib has a really good chin, and I think Islam Makhachev is there to be, not there to be hit, but is there to be dropped at certain points in a fight. So even Charles Oliveira, I think, hit him with an up kick and hurt him pretty badly. Alexander Volkanovski dropped him late in that fight. But Islam Makhachev's hands are looking a lot better. His stand-up game is getting a lot more diverse, and of course he's a really good grappler. So this is a really tough matchup for Dustin Poirier. Maybe he'll land a couple good shots, and maybe he'll land some shots to hopefully beat Islam Makhachev by KO or something. A guillotine is not going to work. It's actually going to hurt you more. You do have that kind of thing with the Sambo Dagestani guys. The Dustin Poirier fight against Khabib, a lot of those guys are known to give up their necks quite a bit. So the guillotine will be there, but it's not going to be beneficial. All it is basically stalling time for when he's going to get beat up on the ground at this point. So I'm not really looking forward to this fight. This fight makes zero sense. I don't even see the star power in Dustin Poirier. I don't know how much pay-per-views he's actually going to draw. This is more of a transitional fight. Dustin Poirier has now lost to Khabib by finish, lost to Charles Oliveira by finish. The Khabib one was pretty one-sided outside the guillotine. Charles Oliveira one, he did good early on. Then I think Charles Oliveira controlled him on the ground for almost an entire round, and then he submitted Dustin Poirier on the feet with a standing rear naked choke. Now, after getting finished twice in title fights, he's facing Islam Makhachev, who's a very dominant grappler, who's getting a lot better on the feet and has a lot of power in his hands. So I don't know. This title fight's very questionable. Maybe they're just trying to get Islam to fight a couple times this year, and the only real window was the June 1st card and then to October, so it's like a 3-month window. But I just don't understand the matchmaking there. You have UFC 300 with 3 or 4 contenders. And even looking outside of this UFC 300 card, Max Holloway's looking like a better contender than Dustin Poirier at this point. A guy who's lost 2 championship bouts at lightweight. You have a guy who just beat a top 5 guy who just KO'd Dustin Poirier. Not Dustin Poirier, just KO'd Justin Gaethje, who KO'd Dustin Poirier. Completely flatlined him, just how Justin Gaethje flatlined Dustin Poirier. And he's not getting the title shot here. You gave him 7 to 6 weeks to prepare after your biggest card of the year. It just doesn't make it too much sense here. I'm not looking forward to this fight too much. I mean, it's just going to be a one-sided beatdown. Maybe Dustin Poirier will have moments here, but in my brain, I know who's winning this fight. Potentially by finish. Maybe Dustin Poirier can pull something out of his ass here, but I just don't like the fight. I'm going to be honest. It just is what it is. This feels extremely undeserved when you have your 3 contenders who just carried that UFC 300 card. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about this fight down below in the comments. Who do you think will win? And I'll see you guys next time.